Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And today, Brian and I are going to talk about some industry articles. We got some time-sensitive stuff, kind of a little bit general at the top with some of this because, man, so a lot of stuff has changed since September, even though we're right here in the middle of October. But also being in the middle of October, we got like the election coming right around the corner. So like that's going on too. There's stuff to talk about with that. So we're going to go just kind of piece by piece. I already have a couple of prepared notes of things I want to get your opinion on. Also, we're going to talk some about today about what has been happening since the Fed rate cut. So that sound good with you?
Sounds great.
All right, let's go for it. Welcome back, by the way. It's been a couple weeks since we've had a show.
Yeah, I know.
So let's first of all talk about the mortgage refinance boom. From CNBC, the mortgage refinance boom takes hold as weekly demand surges 20%. Now, this is a couple weeks old at this point, but the reason I specifically picked this one is because when the sentiment in August was that the Fed's going to reduce rates in September, and then they reduced rates in September, and they did a 50 basis point rate cut, which is 0.5% rate cut, and rates didn't go anywhere. But here's what happened. People who had already taken advantage of the rate environment going down in August and into September, they were ahead of the curve, and they were able to secure really low rates.
Yeah, and I mean, we were certainly alarming that the whole time leading up into it, but it just felt that everybody was waiting towards, rates actually like the Fed cut for them to make the jump, but the people that were proactive, constantly looking, got the actual, the not the short end of the stick, but they were actually able to, benefit from the rates.
Yeah.
Now, future, fast forward to the future where we're at right now, rates have came up a little bit, meaning pricing on the rate is going to be a little bit more expensive. Not necessarily the rate completely spiked up, but maybe, your 6.25% that you were getting before at maybe no discount points, now it's going to come at a cost to you. So, that's what we've been seeing these last couple of weeks.
So here's the thing is that's so interesting about the mortgage rate market and times like this. So I don't think that many people were expecting that weeks prior to the Fed making a rate cut that the market would take a nosedive rate-wise and rates would get that much better that quicker. And then the Fed made the rate cut and everyone's kind of like, oh, well, rates are going to continue going down. And then they didn't continue going down. They kind of flattened. But then now they've kind of come back up over the last couple of weeks. So end of September, beginning of October, rates came back up and then now they're easing again. So part of me going through this little exercise here is to just remind viewers and watchers here, like, listen, the market is open every single day for mortgage rates that you see the stock market open. The bond market's open too, mortgage-backed security market, it is open. It's going to have days that it's up, days that it's down. If you know that you need to make a financial move at some point in the next 60, 90, 120 days, it is always to your advantage to have your stuff prepared and ready so that when the market does go in your favor, you can act. Because now what's happening is we had like 19 or 20 people that came through in a very short window of time that did refinances, they did rate and terms, they did some cash out, paid off some debt consolidation, did some HELOCs. And then now you have people who didn't do it in that window, and now they're sitting around waiting again.
Yeah, and you basically have to go wait until the market kind of, ease it down again, and then, enter again. But one of the things from a point of view from one of the clients that we were working on during this couple of last weeks, they were in escrow, they moved to another property, and in that moment, the 2-3 days of switching over, that could cause a lot of, volatility in the market. So that made it so that when we changed it over, we had to then, unfortunately raised rate by 0.25%, and then the discount as well got a little bit more expensive for the rate. But it was in between switching over. That's how fast things could happen in the mortgage industry.
What do you mean? They went from one escrow to another escrow?
Yeah, they went from one escrow to another escrow, and then in the moment of switching it, it was unlocked, so we had to relock it on the other spot.
Understood. But that's a change in the market too, because hold on, I thought not too long ago we were talking about people are still making multiple offers, or there's multiple buyers per place, and you're saying this client had an offer accepted, and then another offer accepted.
Yeah. So then they decided to go with the other one because it was more, it was way better for their situation, and they really liked the other property more. So in the moment from us switching it from one property over to the other, it was a course of maybe a day or two. The market, took a little bit of a hit, and that cost, rates to slightly smidge up, and then as well increase on the discount points.
So the other kind of caveat here, or the other byproduct of this, is as the market interest rate had gone down, people had come into the front door doing refinances. Some of them were cash out refinances at higher loan amounts than what they had originally taken out to absorb other debt, pay off those things. And then what we see here, Brian, is that they're referencing that the average loan size during this period of time is actually at its highest in the survey's history. It was $413,100. So this little refinance survey that had been done to be part of this article, the average loan sizes were higher for purchases and refinances during that same window, and it's the highest in the survey's history. Now, a lot of times we talk about median home price in the low 400s to, let's say, 425. Let's say easy number, 425. Now we have loan amounts averaging 413, at least for this. So that says a lot about the kind of areas that people are getting loans in and the balances in those places.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are taking on a lot more loan and a lot more debt to be able to, how do I say, just keep up with the cost of living and the debts and their monthly debts just rising.
Yeah. So as far as what we see here, I know that it kind of parallels a little bit of what happened at Broad, or in the broad stroke of the marketplace, because when the rates went down in August, we saw a massive spike of people coming in the front door. Like I said, like 19 or 20 people in that one week came in. Jeez. Now, one of the things cited here was that when mortgage rates were doing this little refinance boom thing several weeks ago now, demand was 175% higher than the same week a year ago. Now, let's give reference to that again. The context is it was in the gutter in 2023. You're talking about the months right before the highest mortgage rates we've seen in like 2 decades. Yeah. So comparatively, 23 to 24, 175% rise in the number of applications is not surprising. It sounds alarming, but it's not that surprising. People who've been waiting for a long time to finally get back into the market and refinance were able to.
Yeah, no, thankfully. And, like I said, like you said, they're just literally catching up from losses of last year and previous years.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen, like kind of moving forward? Do you think that, I know, rates were lower, then they kind of came up at the end of September, beginning of October. Now they're kind of leveling off and going back down a little bit. So we've gotten back a little bit as far as pricing getting better. What do you think is your prediction for these, last couple of weeks leading up to the election?
I think we're probably going to get an aggressive drop in rates leaning into.
You think so?
I think so. And then maybe after that, it will probably cruise off. Same thing. I think the market will already know, what direction things are going to go. So they're going to go ahead and, move in that direction. But I still think it's not going to be a overnight, a day and night change where we're just going to see a huge tank. We're going to take the stairs down, and gradually into next year, I feel rates are going to continue to go down, but I don't see half
elevator up, stairs down.
I don't see a 0.5% to 1% being just wiped off in these next couple of 3-4 months. And if they do, that'd be great, but we'll see.
So what kinds of things are working right now when it comes to refinancing? This is referencing this mortgage boom, which I'll say it's a mini boom. That's my own terminology for it. But what kinds of things have been working for people, Brian?
Cash out refinances. Like I said, those have been the ones that we got a nice little wave these last couple of weeks when we had the rates drop a little bit. So that's been really, really helpful for a lot of people. But I do see as soon as people, there's still people on the fence that, hey, I don't want to tap into my equity, and they're still playing the waiting game, or they just won't do it, and at all they won't touch the equity, and they're okay with not having a way out. But I just feel that, it's not so much what's been working, but the options and the choices that they do have for their situations. There are situations out there, but not everybody's willing to take it because either A, they're scared of what the outcome is, they don't know how the products work, or they simply are just scared that, hey, more debt means that I'm just going to never get out of this circle of, trying to pay off my debt.
Okay. So what would you want someone's takeaway to be from this section? Hearing from you firsthand, front lines, like what would you want people to know right now if they've still been maybe sitting on the fence and they're not sure what to do? What should be like the first, second, or third things that they do in order to decide what action to take?
Get real with yourself, honestly. The problem.
Hey, get real.
No, right away. What I mean by that is that what you're going through. You're only either kicking the can down the road, or holding yourself back from asking for help, or holding yourself back from pulling the trigger on tapping into your equity, or making that financial decision that might help you out or might put you in a better place. I think that's where you need to start, because everybody knows what they have at home. Everybody knows what they're dealing with. Yeah. So I think solidifying what your situation is, and then taking action and actually choosing to do something, or else you're just okay with being in the same place. So I wouldn't say much of like hey, do this, do that. Everybody has debt. Everybody in some way I feel is hurting. Is just how much are you hurting compared to where you're at right now that you're willing to withstand until you're like, hey, I have to make some sort of move. And I think that's when, it really just comes down to the people, how much are they willing to withhold on, the issue that they're going through.
Is it too oversimplified to say that the pain of change needs to be greater than the pain of staying the same?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've heard that before, where it's like there's people that go through a hard situation once and they're like, I never want to go through that again. Like, I'm okay moving forward. Like, it's never going to happen. Like, they do everything in their power to make sure it doesn't. And there's other people that constantly need to go over it over and over again. So I feel until until it hits their hard, or until it hits their like, yo, not again. That's when I think they'll make a move. And it sucks because it's more of a psychological thing where you're like, hey, well, I'm okay. Things are all right. No, I could still get through this. And then eventually you're like, I don't even know how I even made it this far. And now you're in big financial problems. You haven't paid this. You haven't got through that. So I think just, if you own a house, if you're in some sort of financial, like, struggle or just little, like, little hump, don't shy away from just looking at what that looks like. If you tap into your equity, if you pay off some debt, it doesn't hurt at all to know, what that looks like. And on the contrary, I can assure you it's going to give you a huge eye opener into knowing if it's a right choice, if it's the wrong choice, instead of saying, it's not going to make sense, because we've seen it where, clients on the other hand, when they pay off debt, save thousands of dollars and their monthly mortgage payment goes up a few hundreds of dollars. And that helps them compensate from one end to the other, all the cash that they're spending on one end.
Yeah. So you're kind of, what I guess I'm summarizing here is you need to take the emotional stuff and put it on the side. Like what makes the most financial sense, whether you like it or not, or whether you feel, however you feel about it, good or bad.
Yeah.
Because there could be a right decision right there in front of you. It might look like it's the wrong decision, but if you're continuously just chasing your debt and you're not advancing on paying it off, then at some point you will have to, face
the bill's going to come due one day or another. It's coming due.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on ourselves. We're going to go to pending home sales. There's another part of this whole, spring is summer, summer's fall, fall is winter, or maybe fall is fall. I don't know. Fall is summer. U.S. pending home sales hover near record low in August. Now, this came out at the very end of September, so this isn't dusty and stale bread. This is only a couple days old because they had to close the book on the data. But contracts to buy United States previously owned homes edged up in August from July's record low level as the drop in mortgage rates in anticipation of the Fed Reserve's benchmark rate cuts provided a modest lift to affordability. Now, the Fed ended up cutting rates, which, again, we talked about. That was expected. They were going to at least do a quarter point. They ended up doing a half a point. But these are people buyers at that time, they'd already committed to buying a house anyways. So, you're talking about August home buyers. So, it's not concerning to me that there's this lull, but it is very interesting to me that it happened at the tail end of summer. Typically, that is when a lot of pending home sales are concluding because September, the new school starts, especially in the traditional school calendar years. So the parts of the country still follows traditional school calendar versus year round. And having an August that is low following a July that's low leads me to think that the fall is either going to have to make up for that, like we've been expecting, or the fall might actually fall on its face. Are we changing our tune yet? Well, what do you think?
I just feel that the election has a lot more influence than a lot of us think.
So you're saying that's not showing up in this?
It's not. I mean, I don't know if it is, but it's still like I go back to what I mean. I feel that a lot of people are just still going to wait until what happens, regardless of what they're saying. They could say, hey, I feel like this, but until they see what happens in November, the biggest thing I've been seeing is that people want to know how is housing going to get, more cheaper? How's housing going to get more affordable? But I don't see a lot of movement going into the end of the year unless, a huge catastrophe happens. I think we're going to stay steady. Before I was thinking we're going to have perhaps a hot winter, but then again, we have election going up. We got the Fed meeting going in the end of the year twice. So leading into all that, I don't think until maybe beginning of next year, we're going to start seeing a lot more easing in the market for the rates. And then as well for more people coming out and selling, knowing that, hey, we have a good chunk of information of what's to happen or what we can predict moving forward. So I think until next year, we'll go back to spring is spring, and even maybe early January and maybe in December like last year, we'll see an uptick. But I just feel that this summer was a bust.
So I'm gonna kind of meet you there. I was thinking that I have been for weeks thinking that the fall is going to be the new summer.
I did too.
I've been saying it.
I did too.
Fall's the new summer, and where this quarter tick to the right, literally 1 quarter of lag in when the market peaks and valleys are. Correct. But now that we're kind of getting into the full stretch of the fall, dude, I don't see it actually. I don't see it showing up with the numbers. I don't see it showing up with open escrows. I don't see as many open house signs as I thought we were, and I really think that is. I think you're right. I think partly is the election is elusive in the data because people not taking action, or it isn't just financial in that case.
Yeah.
It's, I'm not gonna wait to see what the outcome is here, and then I'll decide what I'm gonna do. That's part of it. I think the other part too is that because of that, people who want to sell are like, no, I'm just gonna wait and sell.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wait. So if house prices aren't crashing and your house price and your house value is going to stay kind of elevated and you're going to be good to go, then if you're not in a hurry to sell, you don't have to.
We were just talking to one of the realtors that works here at the office. He's like, hey, I have a listing up in LA. And basically this listing is like they owe $16,000, $20,000 on the house. It's between 3 trustees that they're going to be splitting, and they went and listed at $940. They then brought it down to, I believe, $910. So for them, they got to offer at $850. So now they're about $60,000. What is it, $60,000 in difference?
But like 90 from the first list price.
Right.
$940, you said?
Yeah, $940, $910, and then $850 offer, right? And
it's pretty steep at that point.
Essentially, for them, they're like, it's been on the market for 6 weeks. It needs a lot of work, but the house itself got appraised at $1 million.
Really?
Yes, and that's surprising, And then we were talking about it. I'm like, what's the bottom line for the seller? What are they looking for? Because at the end of the day, they're all walking away with multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's similar to what I'm seeing right now. Whereas people are like, hey, I don't have to sell because I need to pay this off, or because I'm dragging this. Like, if I lose $50K, I'm still up 400, 500,000. So they're like, I can wait.
It's a lot of money, man.
I know. And that's what I was, trying to convey to the realtor. I'm like, so they're literally paying 90 to get over hundreds of thousands of dollars. And at that point is like, if you don't need it, then I mean, you're literally just waiting until you get the price that you want. And you're okay with that because you're like, hey, I don't need the money. Thank God. And I don't need to make this cash real quick. I could sit until I get the price that I want.
It makes me wonder what's going on with that house too, because if it's still appraised for $1 million, but did you say, are they accepting $850 or are they going to counter back closer to that $910?
No, they're gonna. It's an investor that sent them the offer, right? So they're already low bidding it, right?
Yeah, they're already going to come in at cents on the dollar kind of deal.
And the reason being is that there was a natural death inside the property, so that's what's caused a lot of people to kind of move back and forth. The house itself does need a lot of work. It's a duplex. It's been not upkept at all. So that in itself already gives people the look at like, hey, if I'm going into this property, A, needs work, B, someone died in there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a real commitment. Some people aren't going to want to put the work in. Maybe they do, and halfway down the line, they're like, I don't want anything to do with it. So.
And there could be a time element on the seller side too. I mean, there's a lot of factors I don't know. I don't want to put you, I'm not trying to put you on the in the hot seat and expect you to know all the details, but it just made me wonder if it's going to appraise for $1 million and you had it listed for $940 and there's no offers at $940, but at $910 you got offered $850. The market's telling you something about that place. So there's got to be something going on separate from the value coming in a lot higher.
And I guess the point that I was trying to drive home is that people that, could sell don't have to sell. And until they have a reason to really, really sell, or they are at the point where, hey, now I want my next house and it's attainable in the way that I want it, they're going to stay put. Because, why would they sell? The payment's low. They got a low rate.
Yeah.
Maybe they got some renters in there if there's a second house. So I just feel that until there's enough motivation for sellers.
You got a big payday though. If you're not going to keep the place and you're just looking at a payday, maybe the payday being 2 weeks away is better than it being 4 weeks away with a little bit more cash in your pocket. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Depends.
Until you find the right motivation for the seller, they're not going to want to budge to sell or either want to put their house on the market.
So let's make this regionally specific for San Diego. I know traditionally we have really busy Decembers around here. Yeah. It's so weird. I know we've said it before, but it's so weird because typically the industry is like cooling down, grinding to a halt, and then everyone wakes up again in February. For some reason, year after year after year, our Decembers are bonkers. We have escrows coming out our, what do you think's going to happen this year?
Well, depending on what happens in November.
Based on my description, you're like, it's probably going to be nuts. No. But do you think that is this an exception year? Do you think it's going to be kind of like par for the course and maybe not so big a deal? Or you think it's going to be bonkers?
Well, if we look back at what happened last year, around October, rates similarly went up to the highest that they've been in, the longest period of time. We saw a little bit of that the start of October, And I feel that we're gonna mirror the exact same thing as last year, only with a little bit more help of the Fed. If they do bring down rates a little bit going into the end of the year, even if they do a 0.25%, I think that's still going to be enough to get some people out. We won't see a crazy summer makeup of the volume that we didn't have back then, but I do think we're going to see constant and very steady transactions moving into the end of the year, and maybe even starting in November with people that are like, hey, I need to get cash out, the winter's coming, or there's certain things, a holiday. So I think from here on out, those people and the people that need actual help are going to start looking into it, because the biggest spending months are upon us.
Yeah. And there's also kind of like this point of no return in the calendar year. It's like, if you're not in escrow by November 1st, you're probably buying in the next year.
Yeah.
Not because you need 60 days to close, but if you aren't out looking by November 1st, you still have to find a place, make an offer, get your offer accepted, get into escrow, do all the inspections, then close escrow, and then move in. Try to do that during Thanksgiving and during Christmas. I mean, maybe if you don't have a lot of family here, you're not the host. Maybe you're like, I don't care about all that stuff, Andy. That's fine. That's totally fair. But for some people, they're like, hey, if I'm not doing it by November, I'm just waiting till the new year.
But if you think about it, that's a window of opportunity for a small group of people that don't have the family, that don't really go out to holiday interactions, that don't really celebrate things like that, where they look at it like, hey, there's houses out there that have been on the market, that got listed in November. For the people that didn't jump in the market, those are going to sit maybe until the end of January, December, and that gives people the opportunity to say, hey, I could go snag a deal right now. This seller's probably desperate. He wants to sell it before the end of the year, I could guarantee you. So hey, let me go in there and then negotiate a deal. So I do see that happening, and I could see that being a good route for people that are in that situation.
You want to take a guess at who told me December is a great time to sell a home? Which of our friends and Mortgage Heroes guests had told me that?
Is it
3, 2, 1.
Alan Enox?
No, it's Miguel. Alan, yeah, it's Miguel Contreras.
Oh.
He's like, people have their house decorated. It usually smells good. It smells like winter or Christmas. There's fresh baked goods in the house. Sometimes, a lot of people have a Christmas tree up or something. And it's like, and then people see themselves, this could be my house. This could be my holiday with my family here. So Miguel, for years and years and years, shout out to Miguel Contreras, has told me December is a great time of year to sell your house, specifically because of that. Hey, people are going to walk into the house and they're going to be like, hey, I would like it to look like this when I have my Christmas here.
Exactly. No.
Let's see if that happens or not. So any last thoughts on that before we go on?
No, I'm good.
Okay, now sticking with the whole agent topic, we're going to go right to the industry seismic change. This has to do with the seller's commission paid to the buyer's agent. Now, it's been several months since the NAR lawsuit. This is the Housing Wire article in today's show. A month after seismic industry changes, real estate agents aren't much more optimistic.
Right.
Not surprised by that, but I'll tell you what caught me off guard is that there's this little sentence here in the third paragraph. The number of agents who believe the settlement will harm first-time home buyers dropped by 12% to 76, which meant it was at 88. 88% of the people who you quote unquote serve your NAR agents. Agents are in NAR. 88% of your respondents said this is going to hurt first-time home buyers. Awesome. That is a avalanche of agreement. It's crazy that it dropped. I guess I kind of agree. But I was really taken aback that so many people feel like this is just so unpopular. What's your take?
Well, I mean, from the agents that we work with, a lot of them are conducting business, regularly. As long as you're able to communicate it to the other side and say, hey, well, I have a buyer. Hey, you have a seller. Hey, what are we doing? Most times what we've seen is that the seller either is not offering and hey, that's it. But the seller's agent will still offer part of their commission if they're still charging the full 5-6%. So it's not like they're not getting paid. It's just negotiated and communicated differently. You're still going to get paid one way or another. And sellers also understand, and the way that the listing agent explains to them should be like, hey, if someone's going to come buy your house, what's the incentive for them to buy it as well? Just like when you go buy a vehicle, there's, factory incentives, there's, temporary, help and stuff like that. So I just feel that, with the agents that I've worked with, it hasn't been very difficult for them to convey that information over. And if you're a good agent, we're like, hey, we're already good at negotiating, so we're going to figure out that the offer that we send is good enough for me to get paid, for you to win, and for us to be able to win this transaction.
And I think it's a good point of clarification that for anyone who's watching this or catching us for the first time, we've covered this article before in a different sense, but this is the NAR lawsuit, which talked about being able to advertise to a buyer's agent the amount that the seller is willing to contribute for you bringing a buyer to the table. This has to do with MLS and how the property is listed and whether there's a commensurate commission written in there or not. So you can't do that anymore. I saw a really funny thing. I think I'd mentioned it before, where there's a drone picture of a house in the backyard. It has a big number 3% cut out in the grass. Like, wow, they're really getting creative out here. Yeah, I know it's a generated photo, but I thought it was a funny idea. You can't list how much the buyer's agent's going to get paid, but we'll cut our grass that way so it has a number in it.
Yeah, somewhere or another, like I said, they're going to have to commute a different way.
You're like, hey, does this have 3 full bedrooms or 2.5 full bedrooms? And also, how many bedrooms are there really? 3.5% bedrooms? So the majority of agents here are reporting that they don't like that they can advertise the offer. What do you think? Do you think that this is actually going to make a difference in the... I'm picking on this part because it's a specific part. It's not the only thing in the lawsuit, but this specific part seemed to get under the skin of everybody. Do you think it matters that the broker commission part is listed or unlisted?
I think it does to whoever the agent is.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that, if you're ethically just, worried about, hey, I'm going to take care of this person and I will negotiate my compensation because I know what my worth is and I am confident in my services, then they'll be confident enough from the get-go to be able to negotiate their commission and say upfront, hey, this is what it is. This is what I'm going to get paid. And if you don't like it, then I'm okay. I have plenty of other clients that I could service that are still going to be able to pay me, buy side and sell side. And then there's other people that, aren't as proactive. Just like there's great doctors, there's not that many good doctors. There's good lawyers, there's not good lawyers. There's good agents, there's not as experienced agents, right? So for them, it might be a little bit more difficult to get behind the, hey, I can provide this, I can do that, and then prove themselves to do that. So they're going to have a lot more of a harder time being able to ask for compensation if there's none given, if you need to negotiate, your value or your price of how much it is your services, or if you're going to disclose to the seller's agent, hey, this is how much I'm charging. Is your seller okay selling? So I feel that it really depends on who you're asking, because if, I see plenty of agents that are, okay, cool, that's fine with me. I know how to negotiate, so I'm going to be fine regardless. So I think it's, case by case, agent by agent, who you ask if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
What about on the buyer side? What do you think this is going to help buyers, or this is going to make it more difficult for buyers to find the place they really want?
I think it's going to make it more difficult because if you don't explain it up front that, hey, you're quote unquote responsible for the person that's selling to you, it might, discourage them, because now it's another fee psychologically that they're thinking they have to pay out of pocket. So now it's even harder to come up with money to be able to purchase a house if I have my down payment, my closing costs, and then the buyer's commission. So I think, again, it's case by case. People that, understand how it works, that get a good education from their buyer's presentation, their, initial pre-approval presentation, they're going to know how to navigate because they'll have the right people to take them there. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really going to come down to the professional that's leading the client, and being able to convey the message of, hey, this is how things are done now. This is why they're done like this now. And this is the reason why we're doing things like this, offering stuff like that. So I just think it's not, it doesn't help them or hurt them. It just puts them in a limbo place where it's like, well, now what else do I have to do to be able to get into a house?
So you're saying it's different because it's different, but it's not different bad or different good?
I don't think so. I mean, like I said, it comes down to the agent at the end of the day.
So, okay,
in my point of view,
that's fair. I'm just curious because I don't know what the buyers are talking about on the street. One of the things that's referenced in this article is a really high percentage of people have toured properties without signing a buyer agency agreement, which I think you're supposed to have now.
Yep.
So I'm not sure how that's happening. You're supposed to have a buyer's agent agreement in order to go see a house. 71% of the people who were surveyed here said they toured a property without having signed one. So I'm not sure how that worked. But then I'm going to put these two things like kind of hand in hand. People viewing properties without agency representation and signing on paper, and a lot more people doing for sale by owner. Do you see a lot more for sale by owner right now? I'm starting to, which is why I'm asking you if you're seeing it too, or if it's just me because my eyes are kind of tuned to certain things I notice. I'm seeing more FSBOs.
I mean, maybe because I'm not focused in it, but I haven't really been seeing much of like for sale by owners, but I could see why that'd be a lot more advantageous, or a seller would think it's advantageous. But then again, when they ask you for an addendum, when they ask you for a RPA, a termite clearance, a document that you don't know what it is, it's going to be difficult for you to move forward. And at that point, what's the homeowner going to do? He's going to go and ask somebody in the real estate industry, hey, what does this mean? Hey, what does this do?
Well, but in the case of a FSBO, that person can market that they want to pay the agent's commission.
Oh, yeah, because he's not an agent.
They're not,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
not an MLS. So, and again, I'm not trying to make something out of thin air or nothing, but it's like, I'm just wondering, people who kind of are with it enough or following the topic enough to know, like, that's a way to maybe sell your house. And because something historically that's been true with for sale by owners is I don't want to work with a selling agent. That's just the case, regardless of this topic. What I'm saying, though, is now in light of this topic, does it also make sense for someone who is already going to be a FSBO to maybe even go and compete against other listings because, like, hey, I'm going to pay 3%, and I can tell you I'm going to pay 3%.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you're the type of person that, is ratherly, quick at picking things up, or you're just, you're very good at understanding things, I think it's not that difficult for you to be able to maneuver yourself through the sell side. I think it's a little bit more difficult on the buy side because you're dealing with all the emotions of the person having to, hey, this is going to happen. Hey, this is going to happen. Why do I have to pay this? The seller already knows that, hey, I've already bought. So that means you kind of get an idea of how transaction works. Mm-hmm. So I think for the for sale by owner, it's more about like who's bringing me the client. And then that buyer's agent can really kind of take out most of the transaction if they want to earn their commission.
Yeah. No, it's like, why'd you have to whisper commission? Yeah, it's part of every deal. I know it's so funny to me because this whole NAR lawsuit and one of the critical points of this was all the attorney fees. They're like, oh yeah, the attorneys who brought this case forward and won the settlement are on a 30% take or 40% take.
So,
like,
it's like a different name for saying that you're earning a commission on it just because you're not, you know what I mean? So it's like you're just putting a different name for your earnings, but you're still getting paid off the big cut that came in from the services that you...
Yeah. So kind of final thoughts on this idea here today are, they are referencing that there's some new business strategies, which include short-term showing agreements for buyers, also providing a more detailed cost breakdown for clients, adjusting commission structure. What are some things that if you're seeing these things, great, confirm. If you're not, what are other things you're seeing?
One of the things I was going to say, I do foresee a lot of people joining the real estate market, getting their license so that they could represent themselves.
Oh, okay.
So I actually did a transaction with the buyer's agent that did that exactly. He got his license back in October. He purchased his house this last month, and he forfeited his buyer's commission to pay for his closing costs.
Oh wow!
So if you think about it from that point of view, like I said, if there's people that are smart, they're go-getters, and they're like, hey, I could do this myself, and they see them doing it, I think it's very easy for you to just go get your license, invest those 3-6 months into getting your license, then the other 3 months in looking for a property.
That's interesting. I have not heard that yet. That's a new one to me. Wow, cool.
Oh, Gen Z.
Gen Z. Oh, well, not surprised by that. They're coming after everybody. For real. No cap.
It's funny, and it's funny because I see a lot of videos of Gen Z don't want to work. It's not that they don't want to work; they just don't want to work there. They just don't want to do that
type of work.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's wrap this one up today, Brian. We need to talk about the pending election. Do we need to talk about it? Probably not, but there's going to be an impact on housing. Either way, it seems to me from the outside of that whole arena, looking in, whoever the candidate is that wins is being handed a very, very tough bag. This thing is a mess in some ways. Affordability is crazy. There is a lot to consider when it comes to the actual economic workings and the gears turning and levers being pulled and buttons being pushed right now. Do you have a sense that whoever the president is can cure some of our current housing woes?
I don't think they could fully cure it, but they can put measures in place to ease it. And, maybe that be through tax cuts to let builders build and make things more affordable in certain ways. And I just feel that, they're not going to be able to say, hey, we're bringing the prices of houses, from 400,000 nationally down to this, but they can make, certain, I would like to think that they can make certain, laws or certain, measures to be able to help municipalities ease into, you know, giving people help with the housing and stuff like that. And I don't mean so much as far as like giving money to the buyers, because we already know what what happens when you give, you know, incentives for buying. It goes right into the seller's pockets and it brings prices right back up.
Go back up. Yep.
So I don't think that's the solution. That's more of a added bonus and help for people that really need it. Solution starts in, well, how much is it costing to really build the property? How much are the profits of how they're selling it? And then that root of the problem, if we know that's where everything's coming, how do we attack that? So I think whoever's able to attack that issue, and not so much the popular issue where it's people like, give me money to buy a house, we know that doesn't work. What we need to do is attack the root of the problem, which is things that are getting cost, how much it costs to build in certain areas, the accessibility to build in certain areas, and being able to access more land to build.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest way of helping us bring more inventory, bring prices down. And it's not going to happen in 4 years, unfortunately, but it can happen in the course of 6 to 10 years if we start moving forward this next couple of years.
There's a part of me that wants to like campaign for 4 years. It's going to work. Then there's a part of me that remembers, oh yeah, we're talking about the government.
We're talking about the government. What I mean. We can only move so fast.
That may not happen. I think this comes down to 3 things, and they're all P's: place, people, and products. And all of them connected is the 4th P, the price. You know, places have a price, people have a price, and products have a price.
I love that.
When you put materials in there, when you put the material cost in there with all the products that go into the house, you got the people part, all the artisans, the people doing the building of the house and the constructing of the house, laying the concrete, putting up the drywall, doing the roof, tile, countertop, all that stuff, you know, and then you have the place it's at, the municipality, whether they're going to play ball or they're not. I think that you can only do so much at the policy level at the top, that it does go to the state and then to the county and then to the city or whatever, but I don't know how much of that upstream is going to fix the things that are downstream, because you know, you'd have to change other related policies that then have after effects in those areas. If you want the cost of marble to go down, well, okay, what's that connected to in this other part of the economy? If you want wood to go down, okay, well, what's that connected to? You know, because when you're talking about like foresting and producing stuff, like, okay, well, that costs fuel and that costs money too. Well, if our fuel cost is high, then that gets baked into the price. So there's other policy things that ultimately make their way to housing, but it's not just housing focused from the get. You know what I'm saying?
100% I follow you, because like I've said before, it's like you want to fix one thing here, but you're actually breaking another thing over here. And
well, I'm not saying that it's a break over here and fix over there. I'm saying in order to fix it here, you have to fix it also here and also fix it over there and fix it over there. Because if the costs of people are high, well, the only way to bring that down is by something else. You can't just go, oh, well, the cost for people who build is going to be less now. Well, no, in general, things have to be less.
Yeah.
We talk about material supplies. I mean, remember when wood was like lumber price was through the roof during shutdown, and it was hard to get, and it took a long time. You know, I have my brother-in-law was actually working in staging homes and putting all of the appliances in them, but like in mass, like for an entire neighborhood. Okay, we need 500, ovens, and we need 500 stoves. And he's like, we were waiting for 6 to 9 months to just get stuff. Yes. Oh, and then sometimes, depending on how rare the product was, it would take like a year. And so there was this like massive lag and delay to even get to even get stuff into homes. So I think that ultimately, whether it's person A or person B, I think there's a finance part of this. We need to get more money coming to the mortgage-backed security market and more money to be able to lend out so that we can offer it for a reduced rate to help affordability be something people can attain again. People need to be able to afford houses. That has to only be matched by places being built. I have been for the last couple of weeks in like 4 different airports and back and forth between hotels and places in those regions. And every single place I saw, I'm talking about Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Dallas, Reno, somewhere else.
That's crazy. You were over there. Oh God. How was it?
Dude, so every single place where we were driving around, I saw both types of construction. I saw multi-unit, like apartment complexes being built. And I'm talking like scaffolding is still out and like there's no walls. And then I'm like, hey, what's that project of it? Oh, what's a 500 apartment complex? I'm like, oh, what's that neighborhood over there? Oh, those are just suburban homes, or they're like multi-generational type homes where they're connected. But it's like, this half is for like the grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, this half's for the kids. And so like those kind of things were both trending. But it was interesting to me because there's building happening right now. So even at the cost of the place, the people, and the products, it's still happening because the affordability is one issue on my argument, and the other side is going to be the availability of the accessibility of homes and actually having a product to go buy.
And just like, bringing it back like Memo, it says San Diego, the reason why we are so stuck with, high prices because we're literally landlocked.
Yeah.
They're literally landlocked. And I've heard that by, multiple, big people reporting on real estate saying, hey, like San Diego's very landlocked until they figure something out. They could only build up. But I mean, that goes,
Well, that's happening too.
Exactly.
I mean, have you been to North Park recently?
Yeah.
Dude, I was going by North Park the other day. Well, and I know there's a huge hubbub right now around town because like so many different like little bike lanes. It's like killed parking.
Even in little communities like down in Chula Vista, they're building up. It's multiple houses. Like they have a little like right on 3rd Avenue, they have a high rise that they're building. And I'm like, doesn't like next to the bank. But I'm like, okay.
I just went to a grand opening about a month ago at a community that has, I want to say 180 units.
Right.
And they are executive condos intended for people who do cross-border business. And it's like four stories high, but it's right there on West Chula Vista. It's a brand new building. It's beautiful. And it's specific target market is people who do cross-border business, and when they come back here to the States, they just need a place that they're going to stay with them and their spouse or them and their small family. But there's 1 bedroom loft or 1 bedroom, 1 bath loft, 1 bedroom, 1 bath like apartment style condos, and I'm like, oh wow, and they're getting a lot of attention.
I mean, I think a lot of people do that, and that they have their primary down in Mexico, but they also need a place to crash over here, for the couple of days that they do operate business over here. I know a lot of my family does that. I know a lot of friends that do that. So that's actually, and I've also heard that the other way around where Mexico and Tijuana, they're doing that and advertising to people that work over here but can't really afford over here and want to live, somewhat very, very good over there. They can go and have a way cheaper place over there. Yeah.
Anyone who's outside of our area and watching us, we are one of the most southernmost cities of San Diego. There are a couple that are just south of us, but not by many.
We're in the ghetto.
We're only like 5 and 7 miles from the border, and so for people to cross commute between San Diego and Tijuana is very, very common.
I love when they say, "Oh, Chula Vista, you guys are in the ghetto," but yet every medium house price is nearly $1 million.
It is weird, right?
It's so weird.
But here's this happens a lot of times, right? Because you see areas that have been around for like 60, 70, 80 years, and so they've gone through being like aged out, but then eventually people come back with money and they start fixing things up, building them up, and then you have this huge project happening on the waterfront that's raising the price of everything everywhere on the west.
Every time I pass through J Street, I pass through the west side of Chula Vista area, all I'm thinking is, damn, this all needs to get flipped.
It's starting to become that way.
And I see a lot of, I live in the west side of Chula Vista, a lot of construction everywhere, remodeling. At least I could guarantee you I count at least 10 houses being remodeled in my neighborhood and on my drive here. Yeah. And that's just what I'm paying attention to.
I didn't tell you this. I actually drove through that neighborhood the other day. I was going over to the mechanic. I drove through. I was like, oh my God, there's that ADU. There's another.
There's one. Naples. Yeah, dude, I'm like, dude, everyone's building.
Everywhere.
And it gets me wondering, well, how did they finance that, or how did they pay for that? And it makes
equity of the house.
Like, exactly what I think. A lot of people come by to our house and they ask, how did you guys do this? How did you guys do this? And when I explain to them the way that it's done, they're like, oh crap. Some people are like that smart. Other people are kind of like, I want to do that. 13% rate. But I'm like, the house is paying itself basically. So at the end of the day, it's like, if you know what you're doing.
Well, even that's temporary.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just
so it's like, so I'm like, I mean, those who will, and those who won't, unfortunately, will keep finding a way to, find a way.
All right. Well, there's other things that they're going to try to jockey for priority. I think affordability and inventory are the two biggest things. There's so many other ancillary parts of building properties and making inventory come on market that I don't think that whoever the president is can handle them all with one signature of the pen. So I think there's going to be a lot to be said about it, because if the winning candidate wants to be a hero to the most amount of people in the country, I think it's going to come down to fixing our housing problem. There's a lot of divisive topics, but I think housing is one that everybody's in this, because you got to have somewhere to live. Otherwise, then what we're doing is we're managing a homelessness crisis.
Yeah.
So it's either we're going to fix housing. It's either they're going to help fix housing and deploy some resources and some solutions in place, or you're going to be managing a massive homelessness crisis in this country. And I don't think either candidate wants that.
And, it's unfortunate to say that I feel that there's, between A and B, there's a lot more one-sided that's, more, I'd say, how do I say this without saying
I mean, it doesn't matter how you say it.
They're more up to the challenge of them being able to make an impact and what's happening rather than the other person.
You mean the one who has an entire business history in real estate? Is that what you're saying? That's fine.
And honestly,
people can agree or disagree with that. I'm not saying that's the right choice. I'm just
like black and white, not choosing any political party. When you go to a doctor, would you rather go to a general doctor for your problem, or would you rather go to someone that specializes in a certain thing that you're already, knowing that you have?
Yeah.
You make the choice.
Yeah. I'd like to have a housing baby. Cool. I can deliver that. Okay. Brian, favorite part of the show. Go.
My favorite part of the show. I want to say, speaking about the housing. That's,
we talked about housing the whole time. What are you talking about?
Slowing down in August and then hopefully picking up in this fall, winter. I think, that's something that a lot of people don't really see, and they kind of just go day by day. But I think the data and the numbers that we're seeing, things are going to get better. Like we said, it's going to take a lot longer for it to get better than it got worse. So I just feel that, we know that the remedies are coming. We know rates are on the way down, as long as you're able to just keep moving forward, have a strong plan. And I think that's, my favorite part of the show.
Can I do two today?
Yeah, of course.
All right. First thing is I want to talk about the agents in the NAR lawsuit. I think that the attitude of the people surveyed reflects how they feel about the lawsuit, but their actions are showing otherwise. They are still out there trying to list homes and trying to get buyers in there. And this is a case where typically you can say behaviorally, their attitude is a good predictor of the attitude towards the thing is a good predictor of the behavior and the action. Well, that ain't the case. People got to work. People got to eat. They're going to sell. I think the action is overriding their attitude and how they feel about it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, they feel like regardless, I feel this way, but what am I going to do?
Gotta go do it.
Gotta go do it.
And then, so the second thing is really the election thing, is whether the things in housing can get corrected in a 4-year a matter of time or more like 8. I think there's a big difference in how quickly that can be done. Again, I understand there's a variable of speed of working in government agencies. I understand that may prevent 4 years, but the quicker our housing affordability and inventory stuff can get worked out is going to be the better for the economy at large. Our history has proven 100%. That regardless of politics, regardless of what kind of economic structure you support, what has proven time and time again is that us having affordable housing, people being able to own homes, results in them having higher net worth, more sustainability financially, and more confidence in their future and themselves. So, and you're able to pass something on legacy-wise through the next generation into the next. So it really just becomes now then a game of who can keep what has been given to them and bestowed upon them year over year over year. So that's my 10 cents. Brian, thank you so much for a great show today. Hopefully next week we'll have Will back with us. He's back from some training. We have something really cool to tell you guys about. We'll talk more in detail about that in another show, but here's the bottom line up front. We are now offering loan financing in 44 states. We have now joined a new company you'll see here on the banner behind Brian, the eMortgage Capital Group. So we are now the Mortgage Heroes team, and Will is actually up doing some high-level training as well as masterminding with some of the leaders of the company. And so you're going to see us start talking more about other states, other financing things that are related to things outside just California, but our specificity is still going to be here with active duty military veterans and in the San Diego and broader California area. But now, for all of you who have been with us for all this time and you are moving somewhere else, we're going to be able to start helping you finance in those other states as well. We are really excited about that. And this is forging a pathway forward for us and the future as a company. So thank you so much for hanging with us, learning with us, and inviting us into your life to help you with your finances and answer all your questions. So with that, Brian, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for a great show this week.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe and share this with someone you know and love and help them win in mortgage and real estate. We'll see you again next week.
See you guys.